Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Game Design Perspective. I'm Santi.
And I'm Mau.
We're both game designers in the video game industry, and we're here to talk to you about that specifically. First and foremost, disclaimer: this opinion is our own, does not represent whoever is our employer or any studio we're talking about in this podcast. This is all our views based on our years in the video game industry. With that said, today's episode is called You Are Not a Game Designer Yet. I think it's a controversial subject, but I would like to start. I would like to start this podcast by saying, by telling you guys a little story. I originally studied in Vancouver. I studied in Vancouver Film School Game Design and the Art Institute of Vancouver. I studied there visual and game programming. While living there, I had a roommate who's a very, very, very hardcore gamer. And he studied film in Vancouver Film School, but he was constantly thinking that he would be a great game designer. He would play a bunch of games in the living room, and he would say like, "Oh man, I could do this better. I can design this better. I can these guys do not know what they're doing, right?" And at the time, I went through game design school, and I went to visual and game programming, and I studied animation before. And at the time, I didn't feel equipped to answer this question or this problem. I was like, "Oh yeah, maybe," I said, and I'm like, but deep down, I didn't see him as a designer. He played a lot, but he was constantly saying, "I know how I can make this better." They could pay me to just go in and tell them how to fix their thing, which I gotta say, there is a lot of YouTubers nowadays that pay that.
And that's what I want to say. You have no idea how many YouTubers I've seen say something like that, or people in general. They start saying like stuff like, "Oh man, they didn't do this very well. They should have done it like this, like this, like this." And that kind of makes designers underappreciated. Not only out there, right, in the wild, but also on the teams.
Yeah. I think design is it's probably the branch that is less appreciated many times on the team. It's maybe not less appreciated, but less seen. It's very invisible. I think we're going to talk about this in the future, but most of the designs, when a design is really good, you don't notice it. This is something we're going to repeat constantly, but yeah, this is something that happens all the time. So here today, I'm going to tell you, you're not a game designer. And I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why you're not a game designer yet. So to begin the episode, proper, the first point is I want to call it playtesting. So playtesting is whenever you're playing a game, whenever you are playing any game, you have to think that someone was looking at the screen at least 8 hours a day from Monday to Friday, at least. Which, by the way, knowing how the game, now that the secret is out, that crunch time is real and that people developers are overworked, but at least 8 hours, so at least 40 hours a week. How many people?
The amount of time that people work on it sometimes is worse, right? Because remote studios don't have they kind of have a fixed schedule, kinda. Right,
That's true.
They may start at 10 a.m., but in reality they're starting before that, and they're not working 9 to 5, right?
Yeah, my current setup right now actually is fully remote, and
mine as well.
My the programmer I work with all the time, he's in Singapore, which is exactly 12 hours ahead to where I am in Toronto, Canada. And so if you're thinking about it, like, I have to work, I've had several times to work during the night so that I can work with a programmer. And he has done the same for me several times. So think about it, like remote setup makes it far worse. So, but it also gives you flexibility to accommodate your
Yeah,
hours.
I mean,
But
there are a lot of perks on remote work, but yeah, like,
but this is not one.
no, this is not one.
So 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 whenever you're thinking like the amount of time a game designer has looked at the game, you cannot top that, especially in the first 6 months a game is out. A game takes 3 to 4 years to finish. So a game designer that started the project from the very beginning has been looking at that game for 8 hours from Monday to Friday for 4 years. Like, if you calculate the amount of time, is quite ridiculous. The amount of time we have to look at a game for years. So you have not played the game more, most probably, especially when the game
Yeah,
just came out.
yeah, no, it's impossible to do so in 6 months or a year, right? Maybe you're a speed runner, right? And you've been playing, I don't know, Zelda Ocarina of Time for 10 years. Well, maybe,
So
but still, you're not thinking about it the same way you're doing it with a game designer.
so let's do it really quick, right? So 40 hours a week, and let's say you work 45 weeks with vacations. Let's make it, let's be generous and then call it like, let's say 45, like 45 weeks by
That's very generous on
45.
vacations.
Yeah, it's very vacation, like it's very generous, right? Which is 1800 hours, and then multiply that by 4 years. So whenever you play a game, whenever you have 7,200 hours of a game, in just one game, you played a game more than a game designer has looked at it and thought of it and been working on it and playing it.
Yeah, and that's just playing it. That's not looking at it in the same, like in the same way. You're not
Yeah.
analyzing it. You're not, like, you're just playing it. You're just enjoying it.
Right? So whatever idea you had playing the game, most probably, and I can say this with 90% certainty, they thought about it.
Yeah.
The team thought about it. Whatever problem you're finding, they know. They very probably know.
Not only they thought about it, probably they even implemented it in the game once
and tested it,
and it didn't work, and tested it. Of course, not every single thing you thought about it, but most probably, it was tested.
Most probably, it was tested. So here is something that we say a lot, many times in the game industry, is that one solution brings 10 problems. So when you look beyond a simple like solution, as you like, as people are saying, is like, oh, you just need to do this. Usually there's 10 problems that come with it, and it can be many problems. It doesn't have to be necessarily technical problems. It can be production problems, time problems, assets problems. It can be production problems. It can be executive problems that executives go in saying like, no, this game needs to do something like this or be monetized in a certain way.
Yeah.
For example, I had this experience, that in China, pay to win is not badly seen, or not necessarily like seen as badly as in the West or in other countries, to the point that publishers and investors ask for this to be implemented. Now, a lot of games that are designed and have to be designed for certain markets have to consider that the values of like the Western market are different to other markets. So you have your market to think about. And this is just one example of one problem that can arise. With one solution, 10 problems. And then there's another thing that a lot of times people don't like to think about, and that's the designer's intentions. Many times is the opposite. The opposite can happen. Playtesting and feedback tend to undermine many times the designers and the team's intentions with the game, and it requires a really senior designer to stick to their guns and be like, no, we're gonna do this. So there's many times that the designer's intentions are not lined up with yours, because we all like different things and we all like different games.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we call it, a lot of people call it design by committee in these cases, but in the game industry is known as data driven design. And there is like, you take design and you only make decisions based on what the feedback says, and many times those games tend to be not, they lose their bite because they're trying to appease everyone. They try to appease everyone that playtests it. Therefore, many times they have nothing to say. And there's many examples that we're not gonna mention here, but there's many. I've worked in I'm not gonna say specifically the situation, but I've had that situation before.
Yeah, no, and a lot of I think the most usual scenario where this comes up is difficulty, right? Like I've seen a lot of time reviewers and people complain, oh, the difficulty is like too easy, right? And that's just, I think, a product of testing, right? Like whoever tested the game, and a lot of times user research teams tend to like very easy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And if you tune it like that, so it becomes way easier than the designer intended to make it, right? Like I can just imagine how difficult Crash games must have been at first, right? And
the first 3D games must have been a nightmare. The first 3D games must have been a nightmare. But this is one example like that. This is one example that, for example, the yellow lines, that we see in many games nowadays. It comes from feedback, it comes from feedback. Nothing. Okay, my opinion. Nothing wrong with them. They guide the player. They do their thing. No,
I also don't think they're wrong. Like, I remember when Resident Evil 4 remake came out, I saw a lot of posts like, "Come on, man, we're way past this," and they showed a picture of a yellow box, and it's like, I only thought like, are we? Because if they were not like that, they would look like any other set dressing piece out there, right? Like, so.
Yeah.
Are we? Like, it's not that obvious if you remove them, right? Of course, they might be a little out of the. They might take some players a little bit out of the mood of the setting, but I swear they have tried a lot of things to make them stick out and not take you out of the mood, right? Like, they probably even added some light to it just so that you were able to see it. But I do believe that no, we're not, because that was tested a million times. They probably tested without the yellow lines and people didn't see it. And maybe because of that, players didn't have enough ammo and they were not able to finish that specific section of the game.
Yeah, absolutely.
All of that is tested. All of that goes through the designer's eyes, and they took that decision. And they probably think the same as you, that, come on, we should be way past this. But we're not.
We're definitely not, but another example is all From Software games probably don't play test the best.
No, of course not.
I'm not gonna pretend I know. I was not part of the team, but my intuition tells me that most Demon Souls must have not play test the best, because it breaks a lot of rules, quotes rules, but breaks a lot of rules that, like, attacks come from corners and are unavoidable, or like
it is unfair. It is unfair.
It can happen that From Software games are not fair, sure, but at the same time, they are incredibly successful, right? So this is one example of like a game. yeah, of designers' intentions, right? This is like
Yeah.
exactly what like we're talking about designers' intention. So yeah, regardless of everything we said, uh that doesn't mean what we're saying. Like, I'm probably going to repeat this several times during the
Yeah.
podcast, but this does not mean that people should not express their opinion. You
No, of
know,
course not.
this does not mean that people should not express their opinion about what they think about like their games, or propose their solutions. They should not stay quiet. I actually think it should be the opposite. I think people should be even more vocal. We should
Yeah.
be more vocal about what they like and they don't like. The
No,
discourse,
for sure.
the designers that care, developers that care, will look at comments, will look at video analysis on YouTube and reviews, and will go to Metacritic and see why people are review bombing. Why are you review bombing? And it's like, and that is something that goes to my next point, that the best designers is one. This is one of the tasks of a game designer. A game designer's one of the main tasks of a game designer is to make sure feedback is coming. They make sure that they receive the feedback, and even most importantly, they make sure that they interpret the feedback. Because if
Yeah.
people are review bombing in Metacritic a game because it didn't come out in the console of their choice, well, are they talking about the game? But if they are
Yeah.
actually review bombing because a game is not what they expected, and they're saying this is a 0 because I don't think this is like one a very famous type of review in Metacritic actually is that I'm putting a 0 to balance the user score because I don't think this game is like a 9. So I put a 0. If you're gonna do that, do it. Be my guest. But put why. If you
Yes.
think but write why you don't think it's a 9 or an 8 or whatever you think. Do it. Put your 0. That's fine. But say why. Write why
Yeah.
you're doing this.
Yeah.
Review bomb.
Exactly.
Review bomb a game, if you want to, but write why you're doing it. Because that way the developers can actually see what's happening. If you just change a review bomb for whatever reason, and you do not write your reasoning behind it, then nobody wins.
Yeah. No, feedback is one of the most powerful tools you can give a designer to work on, and by not stating it and not letting the designers actually see it, you're not helping the developers make a better product, or the industry to see what's going on, right? Because so a lot of these issues actually regard the industry, right? Because
Yep.
the industry tends to copy a lot or to reference, right? And if you don't let them know, your games are still not going to be what you want them to be. So just talk, like state your feedback, right? Like,
Yep.
A game without feedback is a game not designed for the player.
That is the best way of putting it.
So just go out and state your feedback. Just don't just review bomb. Don't just say, oh, I didn't like the game because it was easy. Okay, where did you find it easy? At least tell me, right? Like,
The fact they're saying it's easy, it's already
yeah,
telling you something. It's like, oh, I found it really easy. Awesome.
yeah.
Thanks
But the
for
more you
letting
can
me
give
know.
the more you can give the team, the better.
Yes, but here comes the other part I wanted to talk about is that you're right, Mao, absolutely. But this is also part of being a designer, and as you
Yeah.
get more senior, you understand this,
Yeah.
that the designers are kind of data analysts. They're not going into the game and saying, oh, this should be the combat system, or this is what no, they're very, very, very strong data analysts, because they need to get all this data all this data, all this feedback, and interpret it into tangible
Yeah.
tasks that the game can do to move forward in a way that respects the vision of the game. So you're juggling several things, interpreting feedback, the vision of the game, and your own design, and you have to juggle all these three objects. You have to
Yeah.
analyze the data and interpret it in a way that respects all these three. So when someone tells you, if you go and write, "Oh, the game is too easy," that is already like,
Yeah.
okay, perfect. You thought it's too easy. Okay, let's see what is making it too easy. And that already gives the designer a clue of why, of where to look to see
Yeah.
why you found, like, why the game was not for you, right? So as data analyst, my recommendation to every gamer out there, the same way, Mau, can you repeat it again? Because that phrase is perfect.
A game without feedback is a game not designed for the players.
Exactly. Is that simple, and this
Yeah.
goes to the next point. Segue. Another reason you're not a game designer is because you have hindsight.
Yeah.
When you play a game, you're playing a relatively finished product. No game is ever finished. I don't know, like, no game is ever finished. Perfectionism is a strong enemy of game development. But when you see a game for the first time, when you touch a game, when you feel a game for the first time, you're seeing a game that is relatively finished as a product. I'm saying case to case basis, but that's what you're seeing. So when you see something you don't like, when you see something that, like, "Oh, I don't like this," or "This is wrong," or this is weird," or "The game is too easy," you're seeing the game as a complete piece. That is not a privilege that designers and developers have. That's not a privilege at all that we have.
Yeah.
To put it in perspective, to like, the closest metaphor I can think of is the living room coach. When you're watching sports, you're not watching sports from the sidelines. You're not watching sports from the field. You're watching sports from above. You can see so much more. You can see so much more than the coach. You can see so much beyond the coach, and you're like, "Oh, open it here, open. Why you didn't pass the ball in football, soccer? Like, why you didn't pass the ball there?" That is hindsight. You're seeing the whole field almost, something that the players and the coach don't have the privilege to.
Yeah.
Not just that, you have a hindsight, but you don't have the inside information, which means that the coach and the players in a good team have pre-planned tactics, exercises, and and thought processes that you do not know about. So with many times they're executing, or they're trying to execute something that they think they're going to bring them victory. So as a designer, is similar. You have these trained processes, like these thought processes. You have all these, like, data coming in from feedback, and all the technical. You have so much coming in trying to make a game.
Yeah.
That it's approved. And like the best game possible. And you don't know how it's gonna come out, because video games are incredibly volatile. They blow up from one day to another. So many
Yes.
times you implement something thinking is gonna be great, and then boom, crunching time. Something blew up. It's time to hunker down.
Yeah.
So you're not dealing with those fires. You're not dealing with constant feedback. You're not dealing with iterations of games. Because not just that, the game you receive in your hands many times is not the game that was designed. It's not the game that was, exactly, it was not the game that was documented. It was not the game that was designed. It changed completely, completely. And when those games change, there's several iterations of them. So this is why we don't have, the benefit of hindsight.
No,
You do. You do. Which is, again, bring it back. It's important you talk about it. You know?
Yeah. No, it makes a lot of sense. Like the example you said, it makes a lot of sense, right? Like, you have no idea how many games were actually even planned as a different genre, right?
Yeah.
Because you have no many, like, there are games that were planned as shooters and ended up being 3D platformers, guys.
Halo
So-
was third person when it was originally designed, when it was documented. When they
Dude,
were
at least it was a shooter, I guess.
Yeah,
I don't know.
guess.
At least it was a shooter.
Yeah,
right?
but
Like,
camera changes everything, right?
camera
So-
changes everything, and like, guys, yes, iteration. Games are beasts that change every day.
Yeah.
Every day, right? Sometimes there's an issue that change it, or sometimes there's a feature that is like, this is just too good to not iterate on it, and the entire thing changes, right? You're also not dealing with milestones. You're not dealing with delivering some part of the game by this date. You're not dealing with that, right? A lot of times those systems that you think, oh, they were not very well implemented, well, maybe in document they were actually perfect,
Yeah.
exactly as you guys were picturing it, but they just didn't have the time or resources to pull it out. Games
It's true.
are huge beasts. It doesn't matter the scope of the
Enormous.
game, they're always huge beasts, right? Because if you grow your team, naturally the scope of the game will grow, so it's always going to be huge, and you
Okay.
guys are not dealing with it.
So the lesson here is that many times when people are giving feedback, when people are like saying that they can do something better, it means that they design for themselves. And design, one of the first things you learn as a designer is that you're not designing for yourself, you're designing for others. So your taste is not what matters. What the
Yeah.
game, the vision is what matters.
For all you designers out there, not only game designers but any kind of designers, like you learned about this on design school, right? Graphic design, industrial design, product design. You tell me, like, you know about this, and think that games are also made by those rules.
Yeah.
Games are also designed, and they are tested, and they are designed for the user. Usually in design school they call it user instead of player or whatever, right?
Like in
So
Tron.
yes. Sorry if my dog is making a mess. Sorry, Yuna is just hyperactive right now.
So yeah, and so you don't design for yourself, you design for other people.
Yeah.
That is
Exactly.
the reality, right?
Exactly.
And then I think finally, I actually have an example for this. It's like, I didn't play first person shooters when I started working on Metro Exodus as a game designer. I didn't play at all. That wasn't my go-to video game to have fun, first person shooters.
No.
But the design principles that we're talking about this in this podcast as well apply to every genre, you know? But then, like, so I that's when it really, this idea really got engraved in my brain, is I am not making this game for me. I have to make this great for people that enjoy first person shooters. And that was my philosophy while working on that game. It's like understanding that and respecting the people that love the genre. So I didn't design for myself. I am very proud of that game. That game, I think, is a great game. But I don't know if I would have played it if I didn't work on it.
Right.
So that is when I learned I don't design for me. I design for you guys. I design for the people that play the game, not for me.
Yeah, there are already games designed for you.
Yeah. And then finally, I think the last point, like just 3 points to bring up, but the last point is technical. So to start talking about this, I would like you to go and find the Pokemon formula to see if a Pokeball will work or not. Have you seen it, Mao?
I think I did once.
Have you seen it? Let me Pokeball.
You can find it right there. Yes.
Yeah. Pokemon formula. I'm pretty sure it's like
Just think
already.
about it. I mean, I think you're talking about the Game Boy games, right? Game Boy Color games.
Yeah.
Probably Pokemon Yellow, Red.
So let me show you. So the formula is like this enormous formula that is just to calculate if a Pokeball is gonna open or close based on some variables, and the thing is, it's an enormous formula. I'm not gonna describe it for the podcast because it's like 104856 divided by the root of 167111680 divided by a, which is like the variable we're talking about. So, and that's just the first part of the formula. But what I'm going to do for you guys is that if you're watching the video, I'm just going to put it here now. If you're watching the video, if not, just Google the formula for Pokeballs to do, like they say, like to the Pokeballs for to do the shaky, So, for example, we have it here, right? It's insane. This is like a meme, but it's like
Yeah.
they show the formula, and the meme says, "You think this formula is some advanced math? Something used to find something of something advanced math? No." This formula is used by Pokemon games to calculate the shaky of Pokeballs when you catch a Pokemon. It's a it's a
And it was
huge
it was a Game Boy game. Just
it's a huge formula. It's a huge formula.
yes.
So if you think about it, the amount of like you need to know math to be a game designer, because you're like the first aspect that you need to do is that you need to know a certain amount of math. At least the best designers I know some amount of math, and they say it's like the amount of math you need to know is not to resolve something, is the opposite. Is you have already the resolution, you have to come up with something called designer math so that you reach that resolution that you want. I had to do that. Like this is done a lot, especially on melee systems and combat systems. Designer math is everything. So there you go. Are you good with algebra and geometry? Because you need to like how good are you with math? We use this. It's a reality. Like when you script in Unreal, when you script in Unity, you will always use math. That's a reality, right? So the technical aspect, how good are you with math? Some of the best designers I know are mathematicians. Some of the best mathematicians, and they're like so good, and they make like amazing, super complex, beautifully designed games.
Just think about RPGs, man.
The RPGs are just designer math.
I'm sorry, she's in one of those moments where she just wants to hug me and cuddle with me.
Oh, so pretty. So think of RPGs, right? But this is also like for example, like bullet fall off in the shooters, right?
Yeah.
Like that. There's a lot of math involved. How good are you in math? Designers need to do this. They script this.
Just think about Mario's jump.
Yeah, it's all math. I tried to do it when I was
because you can make it as simple as you want, but making it feel that way, man, like yes, it's very easy to just make a character jump, but making it feel that way, they thought about it so much. The formula I'm pretty sure, like if you see the formula and it is simple, it's because they simplified it just to make it work on the NES.
It probably is not simple, but
no, probably it's not. I've never seen it, but like just making it feel that way it requires a lot of work, right?
Yeah, it's like remembering perfectly the value of gravity on Earth is 9.8, right? Like, because when you're scripting, you're like messing with gravity in your game as well. So,
A lot of games don't use that value for gravity.
no, a lot of games, no, but you need to know it,
Actually,
right?
probably most games
Most
don't
games don't
use it.
use it.
I've never
Don't
seen
use
a
it.
game that actually uses that value for gravity. But
I
you
have.
know it exactly. You know it, and yeah,
So that's the first skill that I'm talking about, right? And then comes the engine work. How's your C sharp? How's your scripting? I was watching a TED talk about the designer that made the melee combat of The Last of Us, and he would say it's like real designers script don't use visual scripting, because of the engine at Naughty Dog doesn't uses its own proprietary scripting language.
those guys. Yeah,
Yeah, they use their. I actually have seen it, and it's completely unique. It's very unique.
dude,
Uh,
that's just how specialized Naughty Dog is, right?
yeah,
As a studio.
absolutely.
I mean, Jack and Daxter used the open goal, and it was a it was a
Eh,
coding language specifically made for making Jack and Daxter work.
It's based on that. It's based on that, and I will not give the details because I signed an NDA. But I had a test with Naughty Dog, and I was able to see a little bit of the language, and it was very unique. But the fact that I knew C++ and C sharp just made made it incredibly easier to do their design test. To do their design.
Like, at the very least, you should know how to make a flowchart, right?
And I think
At the
I don't agree. I think
at
they
the
should know
very
script.
least. No,
I
for sure,
I
for
think
sure, they should know
this.
scripting. But like, if you know flowcharts, at the very least, you're halfway there to learn scripting and making it easier,
Yeah,
right? Flowchart is just like the very first step into scripting, and
and
yeah,
the thing is, like, for example, people that are in Unreal, oh, I don't need to because I can use Blueprints is
no,
heavily based on C++
for sure.
in Unreal, heavily based,
Yep.
and it uses real programming like terminology and concepts.
Yeah.
So it's not gonna save you. Like, Unreal is not here to save you from learning how to script.
No.
So there is another skill, right? There's another skill that, like, can you do that? You probably can, but you probably haven't put the time. And if you have put the time, awesome. If you have a prototype, please upload it and put it in the comments, because I would love to play games that you guys are making. And finally, and this is like a surprise for a lot of people, but the final skill is not that technical. It's a little bit of a soft skill, but I wanted to put it here, is the social aspect. Because programmers and artists tend to be more focused at their work. Designers need to communicate constantly. I'm not saying programmers don't need this or artists don't need this, but designers do this so much. It ties back to the playtesting point, right? This is all communication, reading communication, expressing correctly, being able to pitch, being able to talk in public, being able to talk in public in front of a group. People don't think about this when they talk about designers, but your writing skills are really important. Your communication skills are really important. Your ability to speak in public. When I was working at Ubisoft, my mission, I had to pitch it in front of the team, literally a full presentation. I had to pitch the document. So I needed to write my mission, express my mission, and then I needed to be confident enough to present it in front of directors so that the directors would be like, yes. And then being confident enough to answer questions, and bring and keep the conversation going. So how comfortable are you talking in public? For a lot of people that thought that the game development was a loner job, an antisocial job, design is very social. It's incredibly social. Incredibly social. So how social are you? So
Yeah.
those are the three aspects I wanted to bring today. Why you're not a game designer yet. Let's say this yet. I'm not saying no
Yeah,
one.
of course.
I'm not saying you cannot become a game designer. I totally think everybody can become a game designer. And if this is your dream, go for it. Put us in the write us in the comments. You know, write in the comments like you want to be a game designer. We'll every knowledge we got, it's yours. How we got into the industry, how like
Yeah.
our stories, our advice is there. So just comment, you know. And
Yeah.
I would like to end this episode with a little exercise. So you are not a game designer yet. Let's start that journey. I would like you to grab a deck of cards, a normal poker deck of cards, and I want you to come up with a game. Think of a game, a new game with a deck of cards. It can be anything. And then I want you to play test it and see how people react. You might be surprised what you find. What you think is like,
Yeah.
oh my God, this is the best game ever. It might be that people don't understand it. You know?
Yeah, also, like, if you want to be a level designer, what I would suggest is for everyone who has Mario Maker out there, try making a level, right? And test it again.
Yep.
See, and not just listen to their opinions, take a look at what players are doing.
Yeah.
Like, I do think the most valuable feedback is when designers are able to actually see how the players are playing. Sadly, you can't do it all the time, right? And that's why designers come up with questionnaires, right? And those questionnaires are done to tackle and answer all of the designers' doubts, right? On how the game is doing.
I'm writing one today.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm writing one today because I have a playtest tomorrow.
Yeah.
So the thing is,
but if you can see the player actually playing your game, don't try not getting frustrated the first time, right? When you see players are not enjoying your level, or they're failing your level, or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Try not getting frustrated, because you need to be able to deal with that, and then think about how you can make it better. And after that's done, ask the players how they felt. It's very important to ask them and to see what's going on. So try making a level on Mario Maker and test it and test it and test it and iterate on it at least, I don't know, 5 times if you can, at the very least.
I would say from these two exercises, that the one that I left and Mau left, pick one, because it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, right? It depends on if you like game design or level design, right? It all depends.
Maybe you want to just get into it. This is why. So if you don't have access to any type of development tool or any game framework that allows you to make a level, and if you want to try it that way, I think Mau's exercise, like your exercise, Mau, teaches more kind of like the next step, which I think is a great idea. So especially for people that want to do like level design, I think this is absolutely,
any level editor, to be honest.
Any level editor. I think Far Cry 5 has one, which is amazing, and Forge on Halo is amazing.
Yeah.
But
there are even some Mega Man fan made on PC, right? Try just that one. If you want to post it on the comments,
or if you've made that before, please let us know.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna go back to the deck of cards. The deck of cards has no barrier of entry. You do not need to know any scripting. You do not need to know any kind of anything, any drawing, any 3D graphic, anything. You don't need to know anything. You just need a deck of cards and come up with a game for it. I would like, I think we're gonna talk in the future now about level design, and I think this is gonna be a great point for them, like for people to kind of go into it. There is a reason why I think this was an exercise I did when I started studying game design. a great teacher that used to write campaigns for D&D. It was amazing. She was an amazing teacher for game design, and she gave us this exercise, and it stayed with me. And it's an exercise I use to teach game design. When I teach game design in class, in an actual classroom, you actually I use this exercise, and it encapsulates the process of game development really well, and board game development. So this is the steps I would like you guys to take. Grab a deck of cards, come up with a set of rules that are a game, that you think is a game, like a winning condition or a losing condition. Have like a deck of cards, a set of rules, play test it, and see how you change it with this feedback. Post your rules as a comment in the like post your rules in the comments below, so that we can also play test it. Me and my brother, we can play test it, and we'll write like, hey, like we like this, we didn't like we thought this was like better, or this could be better, or we'll try to play test as many as we can. But I think it's a great starting exercise. What do you think, Mao? If people want to do your exercise as well to try a level, I think it's
that's fine. No. That's awesome. Like, I was just saying it for people who want to get into level design, but no, for sure. That is amazing, because that I like what you're doing is actually trying to get people to not only to create a game, but even to create a system, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that can get very complex or
Quick.
very simple. And very simple can be very fun, or it cannot work at all. And the same goes for very complex, right? The idea here is that you need to start testing.
The idea is you need to start testing.
It doesn't mean that there are no other tools that will help you as to grow as a game designer, but I think testing is one of the most difficult things to actually iterate on. And receiving feedback is so hard to do. It's so hard to not get frustrated. It's so hard to try to get all of this feedback and stick to your vision as well.
And don't take it personal. It's so hard to not take it personal.
They're not calling you dumb. They're not calling you stupid. They're not calling you anything.
Well, they might, to be honest, but you don't know. I've been.
If they're doing so, like maybe it's rage quit, right? Like, to be honest, like, and rage quit tells you something. Rage quit tells you something about your game, right? If you're able to in Street Fighter, if you're able to spam an attack and win, and that's rage quit, it tells you that your game probably shouldn't allow for spamming an attack, right? Rage quit also tells you something. Just don't take personal when that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
don't take it personal when people try to give you feedback, like not feedback, sorry, when people try to give you their ideas. Maybe you should do this. Don't take it personal either, right? No. Try them, test them. Probably their ideas are not fully developed, but you can iterate on them, right? Having an idea doesn't mean they're a designer, but good ideas can come from anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Take them and iterate on them if you can. And
absolutely,
see if that works.
So that's the exercise. Like, I would like you to try. I enjoy that exercise a lot. When my students do it, you see them flourish. There are some great games. Some people, a lot of them, like also just make drinking games, which is valid. It's like so great. And not just that, it's a little bit of a gift to yourself. You're making a game for yourself as well that you can try with your friends forever, for the rest of your days, right? And you never know. So yeah, try it out. I love that exercise, and I hope that you guys post the rules in the comments below. If you're watching this, no matter when you watch it, we'll probably check it. So bring it on. I would love to see what you guys come up with. Cannot wait. Anyway, I think it's time, Mau.
All right.
This is the Game Design Perspective. I'm Santi.
And I'm Mau. And thank you so much for listening or watching. Oh, and this is Juna, but she's kind of falling asleep. Oh, look at
Okay.
her.
And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Uh, we're posting every Thursday, so you're welcome
Yeah.
anytime. Hope to see you then.
See you guys.